Merhaba, hoş geldiniz. Ozlem from Ozlem's Turkish Table. Today we are making stuffed aubergines. Karnıyarık, as we say in Turkish. Stuffed eggplants, it's being called in the US. It's one of the most popular dishes at home. And I hope you enjoy my recipe from my cookery book, Ozlem's Turkish Table. It is a lovely recipe you can prep ahead of time. And it freezes really well too. First thing first, what I did was I cut my patlıcan, aubergine or eggplant. I sliced lengthways. I like to keep the green bit intact. And I did a deep cut, but as you'll see, that cut doesn't go behind the skin. So make sure you keep the skin intact. And once I cut it, I just did it a few minutes ago, I put some salt in it, but I'll do a little bit more because that salt will help the moisture come out of the aubergine or patlıcan, as we say in Turkish. Eggplants, aubergines are fantastic vegetables. It's actually fruit because it has seeds in it, but it has a really high water content. So you need to get that moisture out. Otherwise, it would make your bake very soggy. So the salt helps here for the moisture to come out. So I'll leave my aubergine to set aside for 10 or so minutes. And you'll see all that water bubbles come up. While it's doing that here, let's make our filling. So for the stuffing, we have chopped onions, chopped garlic, chopped tomatoes, some tomato paste. I will add later on some parsley seasoning, and you can use light olive oil, groundnut oil, whichever oil you would prefer for this filling preparation. I'm following my recipe from my cookery book, as you'll see over there, Ozlem's Turkish Table. The recipe is also at my website if you like to have a look. So I'm adding my diced onion here. So I'm sort of halving the recipe, so about half a onion in there. For a full recipe, use a full onion, please, finely diced. And here, what we are trying to do is to really saute the onion a little bit to make it translucent, and we also would like to soften the onion a little bit. You'll start hearing that sizzling sound. What we are trying to do is really to sort of half cook the filling here, because the filling will also be cooked in the oven when we stuff the aubergine. Lovely. And for meat, I have minced beef here. But you can use minced lamb, minced beef, or you can use a mixture, as most of my readers do. So I'm adding my meat too. In Turkey, predominantly the meat we used to be lamb, but more and more, lots of folks using minced beef or ground beef too, and I like to use, whenever I can get hold of good lamb, a mixture of it, or you can just use only lamb. Perfect. So again, we are here over a medium heat, sealing the juices of the meat, sort of browning a little bit. And at that stage, I will also add my garlic. Really lovely filling. And mix up again. You just want to make sure all the meat sort of browns a little bit. Yes, this is one of actually the first dish I made for my husband Angus. We were courting at that time when I studied at Stirling University in Scotland. That meal required a lengthy phone call to my mother in Istanbul, Gülçin, because I was trying to get the Karnıyarık recipe right. And Angus heard me talking about patlıcan, aubergine with my mother. And he asked me, Ozlem, what is patlıcan that you're talking about? And I said, it is the aubergine, as you call it. And that's the main ingredient of this dish. And if I can get it right, you'll have the stuffed aubergines, patlıcan, stuffed patlıcan. And he said to me, that sounds really rather nice name, patlıcan. And I think I'll call you patlıcan from now on. And actually my name home, believe it or not, is patlıcan. And I'm rather fond of it. Right. Okay, so I'm adding my chopped tomatoes here. And a little bit of tomato paste. Lovely. Mix it all up. Well, we like to add the tomato to our casseroles, bakes. You see a lot of tomato-based dishes at home. Very typical. Of course, we grow ripe, wonderful, juicy tomatoes. So if you are at home in Turkey, rather than using chopped tomatoes, you may like to use ripe tomatoes instead, which will be, of course, very nice. Lovely. So this looks almost done. Perfect. And let's do some seasoning. If you like a little bit of heat, highly suggest adding a little bit of pul biber or Turkish chili flakes or any chili flakes you like. We haven't seasoned it yet, so let's make sure we season this nice dish. So salt is a very personal choice, you know, depending on your dietary requirements. Some ground black pepper. And give them all a really good mix. As you see, it's really easy to make this filling. Perfect. Now I'm going to turn this off and I will add some finely chopped parsley here, and I'll use some for decoration over the top. Parsley is really the main herb we use in Turkish. We call it maydanoz. So that's your filling done. Looks nice, isn't it? So that's perfect. I'll set this as a side. And in the meantime, let's have a look to the aubergine. Remember, we did put some salt over it. And that salt, as you'll see, release all that moisture, if you may see that a lot of water bubbles, isn't it? So you don't want this moisture in your aubergine. So grab a good strong paper towel or a tea towel if you prefer, and really get rid of all that moisture. Squeeze in and get all that bubbly, watery moisture out of your aubergines so that it won't make your bake soggy. Let's do on the other one. So patlıcan we get at home is much slimmer and smaller than aubergine or eggplant you would get in the US, UK or abroad. As a matter of fact, at home folks don't tend to cut aubergines lengthways in half. They would use the whole thing because it's slim enough that you could cut in half and stuff it. Whereas even the smaller aubergines or eggplants we get abroad is quite big. That's why I tend to cut lengthways, as you see here. It's perfect. So we've done that. And now I will bring my other pan here, my other saute pan, and I'll show you what I have done earlier. So this is the aubergines. I did the treatment and then sauteed earlier. I'm gonna do the similar thing for you so that you see on the saute pan. So again, I'm using groundnut oil. You can use canola oil, sunflower oil, and we'll do some shallow frying. Once the oil is hot, I will add that aubergines in it. If you rather prefer not to do the shallow frying, you could do this stage in the oven. If you could put your oven to 200 Celsius, 400 Fahrenheit, and really cover and grease your aubergines with a good amount of oil, and you can bake in the oven about 20 minutes or so, because the idea is really to get some coloring on the aubergines, and also with that it softens up and opens up so that you can put your stuffing into your aubergines. So my mother would, for instance, prefer doing this stage into the oven. And again, we are not looking into fully cooking. We just want to make sure the aubergine is softened and get a nice sort of color, caramelized color around the edges, and softened enough to be able to, for us to stuff it. Right, lovely. So you hear that sizzling voice. Yes, aubergines are a very popular vegetable at home. King of vegetables, really. We have over 200 recipes just featuring aubergine. We bake it, we broil it, we grill it, we even make jam out of little aubergines, patlıcan in Antalya region. You can't eat aubergine raw, but once it's cooked, it's that flesh is beautifully sweet, and it's called poor man's meat. And to be honest, I could just eat it as is without needing of any meat. It's so good. Right, so I'm looking to see a little bit more coloring onto the aubergine. I might add a little bit more oil. Yeah, as I explained earlier, this is one of the dishes that you can prep ahead of time and bake it, and then you can reheat just before you eat. And also, it is a fantastic dish to cook ahead of time and freeze it really well. So as you hear that noise, it's sort of starting to get a little bit more coloring to it. See, it's a little bit more coloring getting there. And also, as you can see, the flesh is starting to soften up. Let's turn around a little bit more. You can also cut zebra, the skin as a zebra, and how do you call that? So cut some parts of the skin if you like the oil to be absorbed more in your aubergine. All right, almost there. So I'm gonna now start gathering my filling here. Little bit more coloring once we hear that. There is another recipe from Antakya that we love and eat that features aubergine too. Actually, there is a YouTube video on that too. Aubergine, lentils and peppers cooked in olive oil. Mercimekli mualla. So that's another really lovely dish. Vegetarian and vegan that we love. Especially in the summertime, because you tend to eat cool room temp. So that's lovely. We like that color. It's exactly the sort of the color you were looking for. Perfect. So that's the sort of color you would like. And now it is softening, soft enough to start to open up, so we can put more filling to it. That one is quite hot to handle. That's why I prepped one ahead of time. I'm gonna wash my hands one more time just to make sure. and I'll show you the stuffing here. So as you see, with that cooking, it opened up. So I will add my stuffing into that opening. Really open up just to make sure it gets all into that, and also a little bit around it I tend to put, no problem there. Let's add this too. Just make sure all goes in there very nicely, and then quick wash hands again, and we have lovely tomato here to dress, another one there, and you can add a nice pepper and another little pepper to decorate. Wonderful. And a little bit of water at the bottom of the pan. You need that moisture because aubergine needs cooking, to cover the bottom of the pan, and a drizzle of oil too, just a little bit. And what I'll do now is to cover my stuffed aubergine. The oven is on 180 degrees, 350 Fahrenheit. So this will be cooked about 35-40 minutes. Covered, and then I will take the cover out and cook for further 10 minutes. Let me pop this in. Perfect. And once it's cooked, it will be like this. And here it is, Karnıyarık stuffed aubergine, eggplants with minced meat and vegetables. It really is easy to make and a lovely, lovely dish to enjoy with family and everyone. Afiyet olsun.